Get the Angel Reese special at McDonald's now. Let's break it down. My favorite barbecue sauce, American cheese, crispy bacon, pickles, onions, and a sesame seed bun, of course. And don't forget the fries and a drink. Sound good? Ba-da-ba-ba-ba.
At participating restaurants for a limited time.
Welcome to Worse Than You with Mo Fry Passick. I'm Mo, and every week I'm talking to today's most captivating artists about how they got their acts together. This show is not about their best or most famous or most financially lucrative. It's about the work that means the most to them, feels representative of who they are, their creative process, and why they make their art. This week's guest is a comedian, actress, and writer. You know her from projects like Marvel and Disney Plus's Agatha All Along, Hulu's Woke, Comedy Central's Robbie, NBC's Saturday Night Live, her beloved podcast Best Friends, which she's long hosted with Nicole Byer, and her stand-up special Pizza Mind. Please welcome to the pod, Sasheer Zamata. Ready, set, show! Really good.
Really good.
Really good patience.
Yeah. I was like, oh, let me in.
Can I tell you? Well, fellow friend of yours, Sam Taggart, I prepped him immediately. He goes, huh, I can't believe it.
It's like a little like Pavlovian response. They're like, I have to talk now, right?
And it's very like Stay Puft Marshmallow Man of like, don't think of anything, don't say it. So
and
you
can't. Yeah.
Then you say the thing. It is. How are you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm very well. I'm very happy to be
for
talking
having
to
me.
you. Yeah, I'm very happy. I was thinking on our conversation today, last night, and do you watch Buffy at all?
I started to, and I need to push through. Because I don't know, maybe it's because I'm watching it at night, but I keep falling asleep. And I know it's not like a criticism of the content, because I'm enjoying the content. I just keep falling asleep. So I have not finished much of it at all.
So that can't be good for dream. I fell asleep from like the 7th grade to the 12th, falling asleep to like that DVD screen of Buffy going.
Oh God, yeah.
So I don't recommend falling asleep. It'll rot your brain. But then maybe I shouldn't spoil. There's a character that drops in at a certain point.
Okay.
And it's an episode or whatever where it's like, oh, that character's always been there. And it's, to me, this feeling where because we've been in the same communities of like UCB, we didn't have our own like relationship.
Yeah.
But I've like watched you grow and like seen that, and it's been fun of like, oh, she's doing this or this. And so it feels like a little bit when we get to talk, I'm this character where you're like, you were there? Like, you know what I mean? Like, that was early seasons. You weren't in the cast yet. So, I was laughing at that because you've always been successful in our improv community because you're such a great improviser. And then that's only continued, but it's been wonderful to watch. And I have been watching, is what I'd say.
Yeah.
I guess, organically, would you want to start maybe talking about, like, improvising?
Sure, yeah. I started improvising in college at the University of Virginia with our friend Sam Taggart.
Yes.
And Natasha Vainblatt and a bunch of
I
other
didn't
people.
Natasha did that, too.
Yeah, we
Wow,
started the group together. And I guess I had been a fan of comedy in general. Like, I watched Comedy Central and Conan and Whose Line Is It Anyway? And
can I tell you, my best friend Sudie Green and I, we just went to Whose Line Is It Anyway live in December.
Really?
Yeah, it was incredible.
They tape here?
They were doing a tour.
Amazing.
It was in a tape. It was like a live tour where they're on stage.
Wow, I never thought to do that, but maybe I would do that.
Can I tell you, it'll be the time of your life. It was like with the two of us were like looking at the people. It was incredible.
Oh my God, I love that.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I loved that show so much. And I think I knew it was possible for me and the general public to do improv in middle school.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was middle school because my volleyball coach took the team at the end of the season.
The bonding exercise?
Kind of, yeah. As like a congratulations on the season. I've never had any other sports coach do this before, but they took us downtown and in Indianapolis to like watch an improv show. And I was like, oh, what is this? And I was like obsessed. And then when I got to high school, there was an improv team there. And so I auditioned for that. Then I quit very quickly because I also had show choir and it was just like too much.
Honey, the things are,
It's just like I had to pick one.
Your social card is full.
What nerdy thing is she going to do? So I quit improv. I still loved it. And then when I got to college, was auditioning for the improv team. Didn't make it, but then started my own group and then
See, I
Just kept doing
auditioned for
it.
acapella and didn't make it, and
Yeah.
then did comedy. I feel like
There's
there's
a crossover there for sure. Same type of personalities.
yeah, just like type A, like. But I'm intrigued. I played volleyball as well. Did you play beyond middle school?
I played in high school up until I quit my senior year because of the politics.
There's a lot of them.
There's a lot of politics in high school sports, and so that's when I started doing musicals and theater and stuff.
I love that because I talk often on this podcast about how I think the best actors are athletes.
Oh,
And I played volleyball and went to college and then stopped playing in college. But I found comedy and improv specifically scratch that itch of teamwork.
oh, I like that. Yeah, I can see that.
And like the ego kind, and like you can be a star on a volleyball court, but you can't succeed without your team.
That's very true. Yeah, you can't just spike the ball by yourself. You have to have someone set you up.
Exactly. You have to
Yeah.
have good defense. You have to have all of that. And so I think whenever I speak to someone who I'm like, oh, their work ethic's incredible, that doesn't seem like there's a ton of ego when it comes to comparison, the similarity tends to be sports.
Yeah,
Which is so silly to
see
think
that.
of us as like indoor kids who are like, you know
yeah,
what I mean?
athletes.
Yeah. But it sounds like you have that because it's like, I mean, your projects tend to be deeply collaborative.
Yeah, this is true. I like that's the dream is to like work with people I love and find hilarious. Like, yeah, just seeing anybody who's collaborating with people like Seth Rogen, who's like, I'm just gonna hire my friends, or Adam Sandler, or like, Christopher Guest, who just like use the same people over and over and over again. And I'm like, oh, that's what I want to do. I want to like keep bringing my friends and just like create this like unit where we just make great stuff and like play.
100%. Well, it kind of goes back to like theater troupe.
Yeah.
But it's like this is on mass scales. But it is because you know how you work together, and I do map it to sports where it's like, I don't think people understand that in acting, where it's like you can judge a season, a team because of their social interactions, because of how long they played together. And it's like that you're going to get better art. You're going to get better, anticipating the move and subverting it if you know the people really well.
Yeah.
Which is a balance because, I mean, you make a podcast with your best friend and Sudi and I work together too. The origin of this podcast is a play that she directed, I wrote.
Oh, amazing.
And it's so
Sudi
fun.
and I shared an office at SNL.
Did you share an office?
We shared an office, yeah. I think it was her first year and my last year.
Oh, wow. It
Yeah.
had to have been like a quick crossover. Yeah.
But it was like, she's a dream. I loved working
Isn't
with
she
her.
the best?
Yeah.
Oh, I love her so much. But it is fun. The intimacy, like we found with your best friend when you're making something, you have the safety to expose things you wouldn't otherwise or ask questions you wouldn't otherwise. But I'm wondering how you navigate that, like interpersonally. How is it intentional if you're going in to like make things with your friends when you're saying this desire, or has that organically come about?
Ooh, I guess both.
Yeah.
But we have had moments very intentionally where it's like, we want to work on this thing. Like, and honestly, it's mostly Nicole. Like, she's the idea person. Like, we did a web series together in 2015, I think.
Absolutely.
Called The Pursuit of Sexiness.
Oh, I remember this.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love that.
And she was like, I want to do a kind of like raunchy best friends in the city type show, and I think we can just like quickly write something and put it together. And we did, and it was so fun. And there was like no rules. No one asked us to make this. We just like wrote it and put it together, and like asked UCB and Above Average to help us, and Todd Bieber directed the episodes, and it was just like great. And then we got like, we got put on all these lists of like comics to watch and like web series of the year. And I felt like that got us a lot of traction, but it started just because we were just like, we want to work together and do something fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you didn't care what it was. It was just like, let's be together.
Yeah. Yeah. It wasn't like, let's make this a TV show. That would have been great. But it was like, let's just be funny and like put out these ideas that we think would be a good showcase of our relationship together.
Completely. And I think navigating that is interesting when it comes, because it's like you seem very multifaceted, right? Like you're to the outside, right? It's like improv to acting to whatever, but it's like, no, that's always there in those people. But do you guys give each other permission in those ways to take up those spaces? Because I know when I'm like bouncing off things, I then feel like okay to ask for the thing I actually want. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I think so. And we see each other's like greatness that maybe we can't see from the inside. Like, you know, during that process, I remember Nicole feeling like insecure about writing. And I was like, you are a great writer. You just need to put it on paper. And, you know, there's maybe things performance-wise where Nicole is like, no, you're funny when you do that. Like, do that more.
Yeah.
And it's just nice to have somebody who can see you and like tell you, this is what I see that I like about you. Do it. Like, keep going.
And it's also easier to trust because you know they know all facets of you.
Yeah, definitely.
And so you're like,
And I trust her taste. So it's like, well,
Yeah,
if she thinks I'm good, then there's something there.
I do have this theory now that where I'm like, it is that sort of thing, like that childlike thing where it's like if you are just trying to make one person you love laugh, like that's how you'll make the world laugh. Because it's like, it is like Sudi has this laugh where she's like, "Wah, yeah, yeah," and like Nicole has an iconic laugh.
Yeah.
And it's like, chasing that is the best feeling in the world.
Absolutely.
It's really good when you get your friend like going, you're like, yes.
Yeah.
It is. I think to me what's most interesting is how you are, I think you're very good at balancing it. Well, all improvisers do this, right? Because you have to bring your life to it. Mm-hmm. But you're balancing your vulnerability and openness while still being authentic, which is tough to do without creating a big character or facade. And in this podcast, I like to kind of logistically break those things down because sometimes when someone says, you know, just do it, just be yourself, I'm like, okay, but how?
Yeah.
And even if you don't cognitively do that, was there just an awareness of like how much of yourself you were willing to give to your art?
I think it just took time and experience and trying and not liking things and trying and liking things. Like when I started doing improv and stand up and sketch all at the same time, I think I was definitely more character driven and storytelling based. And then I got, I guess, a little insecure about that because like, at least in the stand up world, most stand ups aren't doing characters and things like that or telling stories. And so I was like, oh, am I doing this wrong? Like, am I supposed to be like doing just set up punch jokes and nothing else? And my brain couldn't do that. Like, I can't write like that. Or maybe I can, but I don't want to.
But it'll be fun.
It doesn't lean that way. And honestly, I remember doing like this very like dramatic story, like a theatrical story on stage and on a lineup full of just like stand-ups. And Drew Michael and I were talking afterwards and he was like, oh my God, I love when you do that character. And I was like, really? Because I feel like insecure when I do stuff like that, like when I do voices and faces and things, because like no one else is doing that. And he's like, but they wish they could be doing what you're doing. Like you're doing it because you're good at it.
Yeah.
They wish they could be able to like transform into somebody else on stage. And I was like, oh my God.
Well, isn't that miraculous though that you got that feedback?
Yeah.
Because I similarly was like in the alt scene, but then would go to the stand or something. And I was similarly like so embarrassed. I'm like, my jokes aren't like making sense necessarily, or like, and I remember, I think maybe it was a Live at the App set that you first did, like, not for, I don't know when you first did it, but the feeding yourself bad chicken story.
Yeah.
So funny. But it was like long form storytelling. Yeah. And at that time, there was like, now, you know, the alt scene, the Julio Torres, like everyone's blown up in this beautiful way. And like, you know, Patty Harrison will tell an hour-long story. Yeah. But it wasn't there.
Yeah.
There was no affirmation of anyone else standing there. And you're right. Like, or Drew was right. Like, people want to do that, but it takes such courage or like not awareness to like keep telling the story.
Yeah. Yeah. And like, I think eventually I got used to, or like accepting of like, I don't need like a ton of little laughs if I feel like, you know, the prolonged tension will get me a huge laugh at the end. Like, I'd rather have everybody in the audience and myself wait and be invested for this big payoff at the end, which sometimes is a risk and doesn't happen. But
which kind of I love when it doesn't happen, because you're like, whatever,
like, well, you know, that was for me. That was just for me.
It's very that. I'm like, okay, I'm an artist.
But then when I think about like my favorite comics, like John Mulaney, he'll dissect the hell out of one joke, and I'm like, oh, this feels so satisfying. Or like George Carlin or Richard Pryor, like, you know, there's been storytellers in the comedy world for so long, but I think we don't see the beginning. We don't see the starting point. We see what it looks like when they have taped a special. And so, yeah, I just had to remind myself, like, oh, I don't have to look around to my left and right and to try to be like them. Like, the people I look up to are doing things that I'm doing.
Clorox Sentiva smells like grapefruit. Cleans like Clorox. And feels like
Okay, we could be here all day. Try Clorox Sentiva for a trusted clean with long-lasting freshness. Also available in lavender and coconut. Use as directed.
If fashion is your thing, eBay is it. eBay's where I find all my favorites, from handbags to iconic streetwear, all authenticated. For real. This time, a little Supreme, some Gucci. I even have that vintage Prada on my watch list. That's why eBay's my go-to for all my go-tos. Yeah, eBay. The place for new, pre-loved, vintage, and rare fashion. eBay. Things people love.
I'm curious, did you move then to other spaces to do stand-up or just to sketch when you did that? And because it's hard to keep doing that in a space where they aren't around you.
Yeah. What did I do? I don't know.
So again, that's what I mean with the process, because it is looking back. And like, I even joke with like Matt and Bowen, their podcast, they say, what's the culture that made you say culture is for you? And I took it quite literally. Sweetie calls me a literal princess, because when everyone was saying the culture, I thought they knew it at the time. Like, oh, when I watched this, my cousin, I knew. And I was like, wait, how were you all so self-aware that like that's making you now? And it's like, and so I think what I'm learning is that it's like, even in this opportunity, we can go back and see what your process was, even if it wasn't conscious.
Yeah. I think I was definitely doing alt spaces, but I think I still did the traditional spaces because I kept getting invited. So I was like, if you want it, we'll see. I'm sorry for your audience if they don't like it, but but like you asked me to perform and this is a stage and I cannot say no to a stage. Gotta get the people what they want.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, which also was an exercise too, because also like when I tour, I'm not just going to, well now, thankfully I'm going to places where people know who I am and they're like buying a ticket because they know me. But before I wasn't. I was just going to some city that had a comedy club and people are buying tickets because it's comedy and they're like surprised when they see me. So it's like I also have to still perform for those people because I don't want to just like create a bubble where I only know how to perform for my people. I also want to be able to perform for everybody.
How did you adjust that though? Because I mean, going on the road from New York, if you're like more niche, it's you're having to do more work than your average person.
For sure. I think I didn't change what I was saying or doing, but I did add a bunch of stuff to kind of like pad it for people to like kind of like explain a little bit more to be like, okay, like I don't want to assume they know all the stuff I know.
Yes.
Or they've seen all the stuff I've seen. So now, so it's just like a little bit more breaking it down so we're all on the same page before I do this weird thing. Which is
heavenly, but a learned, like even if I ever did a set at Caroline's, like you can't go in and like it's people Times Square tourists. It's different. Like you can't just do a subversive bit because there's nothing to subvert. Yeah. There's no basis.
Yeah, for sure.
And, I kind of got angry when I'd see comics kind of disrespect that work that you're talking about. Yeah. And be like, whatever, they don't get it. It's like, well,
we'll try.
Yeah.
Try to get them to get I love when people get it. I want people to get it.
It's actually so nice.
It's so nice. Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah. Yeah. I think also like there's a saying that's like treat the audience like they're intelligent. Like I don't want to just blow them off and be like they don't get it. They're all dumb. Like no, they're not actually. They just don't know what you know. And that's not necessarily a reason to like dismiss them. Like maybe you're the first comedy show they've ever seen, or like you're the first woman they've ever seen perform, or whatever. Like I like those moments when people come to me after the show and they're like, I didn't know that. And I'm like,
You're a little bit of like a history nerd too.
oh yeah, definitely.
I really love your sense for that. I do. Like your most recent special, I was like, Amelia Earhart, yes.
Yeah, that's my favorite stuff when it's like, because it's blowing my mind too. And I'm like, did you guys know this? And they're like, what? No. And yeah, it's just so nice to be able to like, yeah, use history, but also use my personal life to like, I don't know, just talk. And it's not necessarily like, there's no agenda. It's just like, here's more information.
Yeah.
And people can use that to either, you know, get angry or get active or get like curious or whatever. Just like to have more knowledge like that they didn't have before. And in a lens of comedy, because that makes them feel like more comfortable and at ease than like, oh, okay, now I have to read a book and you're telling me that I need to research.
You're not doing a TED Talk.
Yeah, I'm not doing a TED Talk. It's like, we're having it's a show. I'm talking about my life and you can relate however you want to, but hopefully you do get something out of it.
Which I love and appreciate, but does that come with any resentment of like, I don't know, like having to couch your own beliefs in life? You know what I mean? It's like almost having to put some peanut butter on all the pills for the world. Or is that the joy of it?
I mean, honestly, I don't feel like I'm doing that. I just feel like I'm, you know, I got labeled as a political comedian.
Did you really?
Early in my career, yeah. And I wasn't even trying. I never actually talked about politics.
Which is all, to me, that's where I asked like resentment. 'Cause it's, and then, you know, however people process it. But it's like, I'm existing.
Yeah. But I do think, unfortunately, but also this is what it is, like being a Black woman in America is political. So me talking about my life and experiences, people were like, well, this is radical. And I'm like, what is it? I'm just doing what everyone else is doing, which is talking about my life or like talking about women's health or like my body. And yeah, which, you know, now I think I am like accepting of that. And I'm like, sure, it is political. I will be political. But when I started, I wanted to be like, no. Yeah. I'm just a regular funny. Like
I'm just like, yuck them up. Yeah,
I'm just
like,
a clown, like harmless.
No, I don't want to talk about those boys.
Yeah.
And it ends up being a gift. And, you know, all of us are like political. You know, the personal is political, which also, when we quote, I'm like, who originated the source of that? And I don't necessarily want to be but
it was Hitler actually.
So just discourse. So but it's like your existence, your taking those actions are revolutionary, and to so many people in any sort of marginalized space, it is like you'll cry just thinking about like someone who didn't see themselves and that now gets to, and that is political. But it is interesting because then you wonder, sometimes I wonder, then is it a duty, right, to like adapt, to lean into that the more aware you are of it. And it can be an exciting duty, or it can be, you know, just as, even like Kendrick's performance yesterday.
Yeah.
You know, people are talking about should have said whatever. And I'm kind of like, it's similar to like the Lady Gaga performance where I'm like, yeah, but her existence, she said transgender of the Super Bowl, like his existence, like that is deeply political and deeply saying something.
Yeah,
and then people want more. So it's like, it is, I think that's an interesting balance. So the more you become aware of the political nature of paving paths. Yeah,
I think like the more art you can introduce to a wider audience, the better. And so like with Kendrick, like I guess there's things he didn't say, but he also said a lot. If you really...
He said so much.
He said so much on a national platform that like consistently like tries to keep people to not say things.
But layered, you know what I mean? It's like opening up with like an adapted Fred Hampton quote already. I'm like, he's done it all. Like he's done it all. Yeah. But again, it is that balance of like, am I actively doing something, or is my existence the revolution of it all?
Yeah, I don't know. I try not to like put pressure on myself and be like, I'm responsible for anything or any group. Like I just want to like, I guess, do things that make me feel good. And yeah, it starts from a very central place of like, what do I want to say? And not like, what do I want to say to change anything or to change anyone's perspective, but just like, what do I want to say?
Yeah.
And then I hope someone gets something from it, but it's not with the goal of like, how do I don't know, make a revolution. It's like too big of a project.
Dear Diary.
Yeah. How to start revolution.
Yeah. But I think I'm happy to hear that, because I do think there is that pressure, right? To like when you become a groundbreaker or, you know, fill a space that hasn't been existing before, there is like to that point of like, you should whatever. It's like, no, I'm an artist and I'm going to stay being an artist. Mm-hmm. And that in itself is the whole thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it's all very connected.
Go further with the American Express Business Gold Card. Earn 3 times membership rewards points on flights and prepaid hotels when you book through AmexTravel.com. Whether your destination is a business conference or a client meeting, your purchases will help you earn more points for future trips. Experience more on your travels with Amex Business Gold. Terms apply. Learn more at americanexpress.com/business-gold. Amex Business Gold Card. Built for business by American Express.
This episode is brought to you by Indeed. When your computer breaks, you don't wait for it to magically start working again. You fix the problem. So why wait to hire the people your company desperately needs? Use Indeed's sponsored jobs to hire top talent fast. And even better, you only pay for results. There's no need to wait. Speed up your hiring with a $75 sponsored job credit at Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply.
I wonder then, for you, like process-wise, when it comes to separating who you are versus what you give to your art, like, is there a conscious, because I was saying before that I appreciate how you're able to manage being pretty private about your life, but also being authentic and vulnerable. And even to that point in becoming a public person, I'm wondering how much of that was like going in, I'm going to practice this, or is it more intuitive as you go?
I think it's like, yeah, as I go, realizing what feels good to share and what feels not good to share. Like when I started, I think I was very like, bleh, like, here's everything.
Really?
Like, cut me open. Like, here's my blood. And then like, I think getting some responses from audience members and the internet, I was like, oh, some things are for me. Like,
What were they like?
Well, for example, I talked a lot about like dating and sex in a very like, I guess, vulgar, raw way when I was starting, because it just felt funny.
Yeah.
And then I would have like guys kind of approach me in a way that was like, I guess vulgar.
If I
was
can put a word to it.
Interesting. And I was like, where'd you get the idea? And they're like, oh, because I watched you perform. And I'm like, I don't want that. I don't want to give that perception, really. Not that like no one should be vulgar on stage. I think it's hilarious, but that's not what I wanted to give off. And I have so many other aspects of myself that I like and appreciate that I was like, I can shift. and also I think other things are funny than sex. And I still talk about sex, but also I'm sure people will still call some of my stuff vulgar. But yeah, I think just like getting feedback from the audience in ways that they weren't even intending. I was like, oh, I think there's other things I want to talk about. And yeah. And then also like in my life, I think I really like having a separation between my work and my life, because I don't want to start living in ways that make me feel like I have to now think about how to turn this into material.
The second gaze of sort of
I just want
self-awareness.
to live and not be like, okay, how this thing happened. Like, how do I make this into a
You don't want to be Larry David.
yeah. Now my whole life is just a whole joke. Yeah. Yeah. And then also just some things are not for other people.
Sure.
It's for me. So, yeah.
Well, I love the way you worded that, because it's speaking to the thing that I think you're good at, where you're saying like, I didn't want people to perceive me as that. And to me, like, it's not compromising your integrity it's not like you were like not speaking on the one thing you wanted to speak on.
Yeah.
You're shifting to other things that are still true to you. But perception-wise of who you are, that's interesting to me because Best Friends, your podcast has been so successful, and that's, you know, technically a facet of authentically you, but still within like the shift of perception. And to me, like it's giving high art, you know what I mean? But it's like artists who are like, I'm okay being misunderstood or misperceived, therefore I'm able to shift, you know, to where I want the world to accept me or see me. And like that's in the I'm trying to think of a comparable artist, but like the Larry David, right, it is a performance of that, but you're almost living that, where you're like, it is so sacred, the authentic parts of me I'm going to kind of be selective about.
Yeah, I do want to be selective because it's like I think also the things that I keep private in my life do feel more precious when it's not shared. And I think also because I like got on SNL when I was early in my career, and like I saw how like easy it was to pick apart anything you've ever said or done. I was like, okay, well, these things I don't want to be picked apart, actually.
Yeah.
This is actually not for consumption.
Protect it.
Or analyzation. So, yeah. So I think very early I learned how to put up walls and boundaries of what's mine.
Was there a calibration period where there was like a lot of walls?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, there was a moment where I was like kind of scared to even talk to fans or like talk to people who came to my show, because I was like, what do you want from me? Like, what
it feels exploitative. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, what are you trying to tell people about, or how my energy was? Or,
exactly. It just, but like now I'm like so appreciative of anyone who ever wants to consume anything I've ever made, or like come see a show or anything like that. But at the time I was kind of like, what is this for? What are you going to do with this? Like, how is this going to be spun? I just didn't know.
It makes total sense. And like anyone who would criticize that, it's like, you know, exposure is a type of trauma, and you're like readjusting to that. So you're kind of, your nervous system is going,
yeah,
because, you know, you had been taken advantage of. There had been misconceptions of, and so it's like, it is that, it's very understandable protection. But to me, that's like a very sensitive person, because a lot of people are like, fine, whatever, or like combative with it.
Yeah. And that's a great attitude to have. Man, I can't even imagine what that's like.
I would love to not always, like me in the shower, me with my friends, like, me in that moment.
Yeah, no, I'm just going to I'll just keep it to myself and think about it before I go to bed.
Just tuck it into the liver for all the anger stories.
I don't have a like, fuck it energy, but sounds nice.
But which is why you have these divine protections.
Yeah.
But it sounds like they've sort of, the pendulum has swung back, so they're balanced.
Yeah, it is more balanced now.
Because like, like I just think that's all part of this process. Was there any like internalized sort of like shame around that or anything? Because sometimes I get worried where I'm like, oh no, I'm, you know, the fans you're saying, like I'm like pushing things away if I have these boundaries.
No, I mean, I guess not at the time anyway. It was more like protective.
Good.
And so, yeah, I was just kind of like, I need to protect myself. And later on, in retrospect, I think I was just giving myself grace, being like, well, you know, you didn't know. Like that was that time. That's how you felt, and that's okay.
Because you were young, pretty young, right? That was like
I was like mid-20s.
That's baby.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You think about that, and I'm like navigating these big spaces, and now culturally we're talking about them more. But it's like, again, at the time you were doing stand-up, like I just laugh because like we look back on these times and we're like, oh, it wasn't that bad, but it's like, oh no,
it was a lot.
Yeah. And like, you know, you're in all these spaces, especially like UCB, which is a predominantly white male space, and it's like there's so many different layers of weight that you're like trying to come above.
Truly.
And it kind of continually is just so interesting to me now that we're talking about it, where there's these different facets where it's like, you know, you have your comedy, but then your comedy acting is different than your stand-up, and your stand-up is different than, you know, your podcast. And like, there are all these multidimensional aspects, and it feels like at the core, the only reason there can be multidimensionality is because it is like a protected you.
Yeah. And I think also having people I trust around me helps me be authentic too.
Really? That's nice.
Yeah, because guys, I can be myself around these people, and like they know all those dimensions of me that you just listed, and and they also have things they're trying to protect too. So it's like we have a safe space, like with each other, and we're all doing the same thing, and we're all rising together. So it's like, yeah, I do feel like because I have a good circle of people that make me feel like me, I can keep that part very authentic.
Yeah, I feel similarly.
Yeah.
Like it's like, I think, you know, you talk like core wounds. I do have a big fear of like being misunderstood interpersonally by the people I love. And so the fact that I've had such wonderful friends who just very much understand me, it is nothing short of, you know, divine, because you're like, whoa, I just be, you know, or like if you misunderstand me, I'm not at risk either. And there's such safety in that.
Yeah.
That's so lovely. Is it all the same folks over the course of time?
Yeah. I mean, Nicole, I've known since 2009. We've been like best friends and working together since then. And then a bunch of other people I met through UCB. And yeah, honestly, like a lot of the first friends I had at UCB are still my best friends.
I love that. Similar. Yeah. I'm the same way. Because like, in the same way you're talking about like the Christopher Guest, the Troop, whatever, it's like people you want to play with.
Yeah.
You're like, okay, I'll just keep playing with you guys.
Yeah.
Which is so nice. So logistically, as Sudi calls it, clay on the mound, when you are jumping in to say something that's not necessarily writing, but like your podcast Best Friends, for those who don't listen, you're nuts. And secondly, it's a podcast where it's, again, just this idea I'm like learning as I'm talking with you of the difference between performance and authenticity. And because the podcast is just their friendship, there's them talking about any given thing, taking quizzes, but it's so masterful you don't notice it, because guess what? You and your best friend aren't going to have that podcast. You know what I mean? Like, you guys are still wonderful at putting on a show. It's like it's two friends at a party who are like impressing the people with their travel stories.
Yeah.
And it is like, it is so delightful. And like with that clay on the mound process, do you guys ever speak about that, or is it just the joy of the relationship that brings that forth?
Yeah, it's just the joy of the relationship. We don't plan anything. We just show up and we're like, here's what I'm thinking today. And we Google things. We show each other YouTube videos. It's really just like two friends gabbing, and like we would be talking anyway, but we just happen to have mics on.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like so fun. And also, you know, I think also because we are bred improvisers.
Yes.
Sometimes it does feel like we're doing an improv scene with like callbacks and a form, even though we're just talking, because it's just naturally how our brains work. And because we have been improvising together for so long, we bring it out of each other. Like it really, like our funny feeds each other. So yeah, it just feels like a really like natural thing.
Yeah, I like, as like an improviser brain myself, I get like giddy when I hear the yes anding.
Yeah.
When I hear like, maybe I'm projecting, but I'll hear like in a normal conversation, maybe that would go away. But like, I just hear the shift in the scene where you're like, wait, what? To Nicole, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I'm like, yes, I am. We found the gift.
Yes.
And it's like really delightful. But it is one of those things where it is so well done. It's very unseen in that space. But yeah, that's why like Sud and I at parties, we love to tell. It's like tag team telling a story. Yeah. But it is very like, even if the story is not being told right and she's doing something funny, I'll be like, yes, and we did see that. Yeah. Because we travel a lot together. And I'm like, but okay, now I'm excited to ask you specifically this. So I consistently talk with folks when it comes to process about vulnerability. And I think the part that excites me about vulnerability is that, as I always say, information is not intimacy. And so you have a keen awareness of that. You're not always sharing information. But what to you is vulnerable in these processes? What to you is the part that is more difficult, even if other people are saying, you know, it's something else you do, where you're like, oh, it's actually kind of second nature.
Yeah. I think it's like, I guess staying authentic, but like kind of letting people in a little bit, like letting them into the feelings of what's happening. I mean, you might not be getting like exact details of my life, but I think the feeling will be there.
Oh yeah, wow.
And that's like kind of the reason why I love performing. It's like what started it. I remember in college, I did this play called For Colored Girls who have considered suicide when the rainbow is enough. And there's like some like rough, like dramatic poems. There's a lot of emotion. There's uplifting poems. And I remember the cast would talk to the audience afterwards, and like people would talk about how they felt. Like, you know, like I went through something like this, or like I had this emotion at a certain time in my life, or just like anything like that. And it really made me feel like, oh, I always want to do this. I always want people to feel something when they leave anything that I've created. If they saw me perform live, if they watched something I did, I want them to feel something. So I think being able to share in that emotion, whatever it is, or inspiring some sort of emotion, feels very vulnerable.
Gosh, yeah. Is it like, for me, the emotions that I share, maybe about like, you know, sensitive or difficult subjects, aren't necessarily the most vulnerable ones to me. So when you're sharing, is it just like, maybe you're like, to me, like sharing joy is sometimes really vulnerable.
Yeah.
Because it's like, is there conscious ones, or is it just like?
I think whatever comes up. Like, yeah, it could be.
And
just,
you fully allow it, just.
Yeah, I try to, you know.
I hear that, but I'm just wondering what's kind of going on within you. That's hard.
Yeah, I think it's also like, you know, the inner work I've been doing too, of like on my own, trying to be more open and vulnerable in my life and with people around me. So I think, yeah, the practice I'm doing on my own makes it easier for it to come out in my work because I'm already doing it. But I don't know if there's like a goal of like, oh, I want people to, I don't try to like tell people what to feel. I hope they feel something. But, you know, and sometimes I'm surprised. Like sometimes people are like, oh my God, I feel like, you know, so excited about this thing that you said. And I'm like, really? Because I was angry, but I don't know what they're gonna.
You're living with it.
Yeah. And that part makes me feel like I want to dig into that more. Like just putting any kind of like vulnerable thing out there will inspire something in somebody else. I don't know what it's gonna be, but as long as it's something that makes me feel like I did something right. Well,
again, it goes back to like most of your art is relational, and it is in connection with other people. And it might seem, you know, to those who are doing it like redundant, but I hammer down on that because I think when everyone's trying to succeed or, you know, get certain gigs or whatever, it's like, or even like the attack of AI, it's like you can feel when someone is connecting and when someone's present. Yeah. And it is like the fact that you're moved by that and motivated or inspired by that, it's like that's what's going to stay true. Like that is the art people are drawn to. Yeah. Yeah. There's like there's a relationship happening between an audience and a performer. And I love doing on-camera stuff, but I hope I never lose the itch to perform live because I love it so much. And you can really feel the energy in a space, and it feels like so palpable when people are like hanging on your every word, or like you like there's a bait and switch and you tricked them for some reason, or it's just like I'm like they're getting something from me, but I'm also getting something from them. Like I'm also like feeling the energy, and like it's feeding me more too. And it's almost like they're a container, and you know you have resonance because it's bouncing back. Yeah, you know, like, we're all doing this together, and like what I'm doing has more weight because they're there. 100%. Yeah. Which is like, again, such an authentic actor. Have you done more like serious plays at all? I haven't, no. You haven't? No. Is it next on the docket maybe? I would love to, yeah. Oh, this is, because the way you're talking, I'm like, that is someone like who respects their audience, who's excited to play with them. Like, and when you're being held by the audience in that way, it's like, oh baby, you know, like it's a freedom and permission to take up space in a really big way. Yeah. Is there maybe a favorite play that you'd want to do? Oh, interesting. It's so funny. I studied theater in college. Did Nicole too? Yeah, she did. You guys are little theater nerds. Well, yeah, we are theater nerds. Yeah. That's so funny. But I was not a studious one. Okay, yeah, sure. I like had no patience, and I don't know why. I was like, I had to see so many plays, and I remember being like,
this is not grabbing me.
Snooze.
Yeah, and I would leave. I'd be like,
You'd leave?
I would leave.
That's
I'd be
actually
like,
powerful.
my time is more valuable than me trying to struggle through this.
I don't know. I have an acting teacher who would say that they didn't engage you and that's their fault.
Exactly. Thank you. So
You're like, I was a critic.
to answer that, I don't know many plays.
I love that. Incredible. Same. I don't.
I know like maybe the beginnings of a lot, but I don't know full plays.
If you
but
like, I know like a monologue I've seen in an acting class from.
Truly.
I couldn't tell you what play.
Truly, yeah. Like there's a really good Shakespeare monologue I know, but I don't know the play.
Who said what? I don't know.
Yeah. But I'm open. Yeah, I do like performing in many different ways, and I've been doing comedy for so long, but it's so fun to be dramatic.
Would you write your own?
Yeah, there was a time where I was like tooling around with writing plays, but I didn't finish any of them. But
Go time.
go time. Yeah, I could. Yeah.
Because I think like one of the things that about the play Worse Than You that started this podcast that Sudi and I liked as comedians, where you always forget that like when you're doing or talking about something serious, the bar for comedy in theater is, God bless, is pretty low.
Yeah.
So like you can be emotional and then that's still that fun, that playfulness of a joke, like it charges you back up.
Yeah.
Even if it's for a millisecond for the rest of it. And like, yeah, I'd be really excited to see you write a play, like a more dramatic, more.
Yeah. All right. I like that.
Yeah, just because again, like I don't know. I'm excited. I think there's a bit of a new invigoration in the theater scene in LA specifically, and hopefully that stays consistent.
Yeah.
But I'm just excited to see artists who, you know, are like you, where they have sort of expressed in every different medium. Where like I always think of David Bowie, and at the time it seemed insufferable, but it's really true. Where he was like, I'm not a musician. He was like, that is what I got famous for. He was like, I am an artist. He was like, I will put my inspiration into any medium that feels good at the time. But like, I'm not in, you know, I do think he was being obstinate, but I do think it's true for a lot of improvisers specifically, because it is that like, I want to create with someone and it can look like anything.
Yeah, I do like that. Yeah, that's how I feel. I feel like I got known for comedy and I love doing comedy, but also I like other genres too and can do them. And yeah, like Agatha All Along, that was like the most dramatic I've.
We haven't even gotten into that. You were acting with Patti LuPone, so your theater kid did that.
Yeah,
I'm like, okay, wow.
Yeah, what a dream. Yeah, it was like I got to flex so many muscles in that show that I haven't had to exercise in so long, and I was so thankful to be able to do that and not just be like used for comedic relief. Like I also had some really like raw emotional scenes, and that was so fun to do, and it makes me feel like, yeah, I just want to do more and more because it makes me grow as a performer and grow as an artist. And yeah, I want people to see my stuff.
Well, yeah, and I'm a little bit excited in that, like, sometimes, you know, when we see artists do that, they go, I didn't know I could do this. To me, it seems like you knew this was all in you. It's just like finally the opportunity.
Yeah, that is how it felt. Yeah, I did. Yeah. Yeah.
And rightfully so. Like, and that's what excites me. Not like people who are like discovering in the moment. You're just kind of like, oh, what we were talking about with the facets. You're like, oh yeah, I can do that.
I welcome a challenge. That's also kind of how I started comedy. Like it was like all challenges. Like
how?
Like, you know, seeing improv, I was like, I could probably do that. And then I tried it and then was doing it. And then in my improv classes, people were like talking about doing stand up, and they're like, that seems really scary. And I was like, scary? Sign me up.
Love this.
And then I started doing mics and was like, you know, trying and failing all over the city, but loving it.
Oh, the best.
Yeah. I, you know, not that I don't get scared, but I think the initial like, oh, a new skill, or like, oh, a new thing, like a new way to express myself. I'll try it and to see what happens.
I love that. A new way to express it. Yeah. No, I feel similarly, where it's like, why not?
Yeah.
Why don't I see what I look like in this outfit, in this outfit?
Yeah.
It's like, oh, that's so exciting. Okay, so we are moving to the final segment, but I'm excited for you. And well, excited for people to see all that is already within you, it seems like. And so the final segment is called Thank You for Holding My Poems. And it is originated from the Russian poet Anna Akhmatova. and it was illegal for her to publish her poems because they were a revolution in Russia. So her and this artist group came up with what they called the Gutenberg, the first printing press. And they would memorize edits of each other's poems and hold them, different edits, over the course of 30 years.
Wow.
And one time, of course, crying over, Margarita's told Sudi the story. I was like, how incredible is art? And then like a few weeks later, I remembered a detail about like her sister's kids, animal, like just a small detail. And in passing, Sudi synthesized it. And she was like, oh, yeah, thanks for holding my poems. Anyways, and she said, genius.
Oh,
She's a genius woman.
I love that.
So this segment is kind of based around the idea of, one, coming to someone with something vulnerable or messy and holding that or holding it for someone else. And it can be for you. For me, it was like a moment. Someone gave me a compliment on like a really dark day. Mm-hmm. But it urged me to be in connection with people and move forward. And to me, that's a poem.
Yeah.
And so a poem can be anything. And I'm wondering, when you hear this story, if there is a poem that you would like to hold for another, us to hold for you, or that is just a meaningful moment that might not be big, but means the world to you.
I feel like I have a couple rumbling through my head.
Do them all.
Okay. One is from the great poet Michael Jordan.
Say that. Are you kidding me? Do you know how many posters I had on my wall? 1,000 misses or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah. It was from The Last Dance, and there was just a quote that I don't even know if it was supposed to like be a moment, but it really struck me, where he was like, "Why would I think about missing a shot I haven't taken?" And I was like, "Yeah,
oh my God,
yeah." I was like, and I have it written so many places like around so I can see it, and it's just like, yeah, why would I think about failing at this thing I haven't even tried yet? And I wish I could say I embody that. I'm still learning to, but I'm striving for it. I really want to get to a place where I consistently am like, why would I worry about that? I haven't even done it.
Because
like,
it's not even embody. It sounds like a deconditioning.
Yeah, truly. Like stripping away all the things that make me, like the imposter syndrome and the things that make me like anxious about work. But yeah, it's just like, it's so simple. It's like, of course, yeah, why are we worrying about this thing? We haven't done it.
We haven't. But then athletes, right? Like the great athletes, fully present.
Yeah.
You have to be in the moment only. Yeah. Like, why am I future tripping? Like, Okay, first poem, incredible. Okay, next poem.
Next poem was from Tracy Morgan when he came to host SNL when I was on the show. And I remember him being in my office, and I think, he's a great storyteller. He's like just a very giving person. And he knew I got hired. I don't think this was my first year, but he just knew, about my hiring, and was saying like, it's wonderful to be grateful for an opportunity, but after a while you need to like show your teeth and remind people why you're there.
Ooh.
And kind of being like, you got the job, and that is great. And we can be like, thank you so much. Like, thank you for the opportunity. But also, you got hired for a reason. And sometimes you got to remind people. And I really do feel like that shifted my mindset at that show to be like, oh, yeah, I was like hot shit before I got on the show. Oh. And you hired me because of that. And so I'm going to keep doing that. And it made me feel like, yeah, just very different. I don't even know how to say exactly how it shifted things, but it did shift things for like the rest of my time on that show.
That's a massive shift.
Yeah.
And like, I'm so, whatever timing that was, that's heavenly, because, in these hierarchies, you get told that we should be grateful, and then you stifle. Mm-hmm. And especially, at 30 Rock, it's, this sort of know your place a little bit. And to remember that's like, oh no, I'm giving you something. Mm-hmm. Like, and this is no ego. This is just like respect.
Yeah.
And I need to give myself that respect. Mm-hmm. I love to say the teeth though, because it's a little bit like, yeah. I got good, like
I got good teeth.
Yeah. And then like, you're not trying to impress someone. You're trying to remember how to be yourself within that system.
Yeah. And kind of remembering that like, what you were saying about hierarchy, like I guess, yeah, there can be a perceived hierarchy, but also everyone's getting hired to be a part of a team.
Mm-hmm.
So ideally you want, people are being placed there to create a show that we
Together.
all are doing together. And so it's easy to like kind of belittle yourself or like think like, oh, I'm a newbie, or like I haven't earned enough right to be here, or whatever. But it's like, oh no, wait, they actually wanted me here to be a part of a team. So I need to actually be in that mindset of like, what I'm contributing is as equal as everybody else.
And let me value it.
Yeah.
Because, well, I mean, back to sports, right? Like, if Jordan's not valuing his position within it, if he's trying to do all the other positions or make himself small so other positions seem better, the team's not going to succeed.
Yeah.
Oh, I love this.
Yeah.
This is good poems.
Yeah.
These are really good. Any other poems?
Do you have any other poems? Oh, I had a, after some show, some stand-up show I did, I remember an audience member coming up to me and saying that my performance felt like a kiss on the cheek and a left hook.
Oh, I love that a little bit.
Yeah, kind of just like a little, just like gentle, like, hey, we're all here together, but also like, bam,
It's like Black Widow.
Yeah.
Where, like it's seductive, but it's like, do not fuck with me.
Yeah, which I like, and I don't even know what he meant exactly by it. But
we don't want to know it.
Yeah, I don't actually want to know. I like kiss, but something like I do want people to feel comfortable and welcomed and kind of held when they're with me in this journey of art and performance. And also, yeah, they're a little jarred too. That's fun too. Like, wake up a little bit.
That's a gift.
Yeah.
Yeah. That both of those last poems I feel like such wonderful reminders of who you are.
Yeah, definitely.
Like, oh, I love that. Well, I'm so happy we got to talk today.
Yeah, me too.
Is there any place folks can find you or anything specific you want to?
Yeah, my website's Sasheer.com. My Instagram, is that all I have? I think I just have Instagram now.
Love that.
It's just at The Sheer Truth, THE Sheer Truth. I'm on Agatha All Along, which is on Disney Plus. You can listen to Best Friends, wherever you get podcasts from. My stand-up special, The First Woman, is on Hulu and YouTube.
So good. I love it so much.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
And my first special, Pizza Mine's on Amazon and probably other places. And yeah.
Well, thank you. And I end by giving everyone a compliment and just saying, oh my God, you're so pretty.
I love that.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Thanks. Okay, bye. Worse Than You with Mo Fry Pasick is hosted by me, Mo Fry Pasick. You can learn more about this week's guest and the Worse Than You team by checking out the show and episode copy. Worse Than You with Mo Fry Pasick is executive produced by Erica Ghetto, Mariah Gossett, and Lauren Mandel for Good Get and Disco Nap Productions. Oh my God, you're so pretty.
I love when people get it. I want people to get it.
It's actually so nice.
It's so nice. Yeah.